does this have any practical use?
I think it's really practical when you think of your life and conflict. Whether you're at work, you're at home, with your family, with your friends, there's always conflict. Your need to eat and my need to eat when the one piece of thing to eat creates conflict, and we have to do something about that conflict. And we grow up, we learn how to handle conflict, but it's always with us. And the problem with the two-choice conflict that I was just talking about, which we often, and I call it lazy conflict, it's fight or flight, no third choice, is what happens. Let's picture we're in the Rocky Mountains, we're backpacking, and we come across a bear. Now the bear is thinking and I'm thinking, am I going to run and hide? Am I going to stand and fight? And the bear's thinking the same thing, isn't he?
Oh, yes, he is.
Okay, and if it's a she with a cub, you know what she's thinking.
Yeah.
Protect that cub. Well, if I have a gun, I can shoot. The bear can always attack me. Or we can both just sort of walk away, and most of the time in the wild, the animal and the human will walk away. We don't want to fight. But in conflict in real life, we're making that choice constantly, fight or flight. Now, the danger of two choices is the logical outcome. I think of World War II. This is the city of Dresden, firebombed one night. One day, it's a beautiful ancient city, artwork, people. The next morning, we have dead bodies and collapsed buildings from the logical outcome of a war. And fight, really, if you take it to its logical conclusion, is killing. And so that's bad. Let's just wipe off fighting, okay? So let's look at the avoidance. Now, if you go to Europe, there's castles all over the place. Back in the Middle Ages, people realized they could hide. They could avoid fighting by being in the castle. This particular castle is in Austria. It's where The Sound of Music was filmed, and Maria Van Trapp was actually married in the abbey in this very castle. And on the surface, it looks pretty attractive. And if the bad guys come, you go in the castle and hide, and they go away. But in reality, there would be a siege. And I heard in the history of this particular castle, it wasn't too pretty during a siege, because if you go outside to get food, they kill you. If you stay inside, you run out of food and you die. And disease sets in and all sorts of bad things. So the fight-flight option, both of them lead to death and unhappiness. Mm-hmm. And so we need that third option. So what is that third option? I would say it's build. I got a picture of a bridge here. We build bridges. We connect. And see where you can have fight, flight, or build the sweet spots in the center, maybe a little bit of everything. I think back to the 20th century. World War I was probably the worst war in the history of mankind. Oh, millions of people killed, not just fighting, but disease and destruction, and nobody wanted to do it again. But nobody did anything about it. They just avoided war, had an armistice, and pretty soon it came back again, even worse in World War II. What changed after World War II? The Marshall Plan. They rebuilt. They built bridges, built a world economy, and everything changed. We haven't had a true World War III of the nature of World War II, because the leaders of this country back then decided to build instead of avoid or fight. Now, of course, there's still war, there's still conflict, but what I say is there's three choices, and you make better choices when you have three.
Yes.
So I tie it together with conflict, with three choices, and I'm reminded of myself in my marriage. I've been married 35 years, one woman, and it's, for the most part, pretty good. But not always. There's conflict, as you would expect in any relationship. And I think back one night, we had the aggressive conflict. We never hit, but, you know, arguing and yelling. And I went to bed that night and went to sleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night just feeling bad. I didn't know what to do. And because I teach this stuff, and I just come home from a 2-day workshop on constructive conflict, and I said, Steve, you gotta go constructive. And I don't wanna go constructive. So I got out of bed, I sat on the back porch and argued with myself. No, I'm gonna avoid. I'm just gonna avoid, passive. And Steve, you gotta go constructive. So I decided to go for a walk. I gotta work this out. Found myself at the all-night King Soopers, and found myself standing in front of the flowers. And they had some beautiful roses, variegated, the kind that Joanne would like. And I bought them. I said, Steve, this is dumb. You know, you wanted to avoid all this. Why are you doing this? Because I gotta. So I did. And then I had to find a card. And I found one that Joanne would like, but inside it was blank. Now what do I do? I have to write something. And I don't want to write something good. So I'm walking home and I remembered the whole week was good until that night. So why don't I write about something good during the week? And I did. I went to bed and I slept well. So that constructive thing helped me first. But more important, the next morning, Saturday morning, I went outside, I was working in the yard. A little later, Joanne came out and says, okay, I'm confused. Where do these flowers come from? And I thought, yes, it worked. Confused is much, much better than angry, much better than passive. Constructive, you never know where it's going to go. We're building for the future. But confused, it lets us refocus. So I would say you've got a choice. You can avoid, you can stand up for your rights, or you can take a chance and build for the future.
I'll have to remember that next time I'm in conflict. Very interesting.